Tune into Let Me Book the Territory. It's a new wrestling podcast where Smart Marks, A-Dub, E-Ray, and J-Mo review the week's top stories and storylines in wrestling and attempt to book out the championship feuds and storylines better than anyone else. New episodes are available every Friday wherever you get your podcasts. Again, it's called Let Me Book the Territory.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is the weekend review for Sunday, February 6th, 2022. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining me. So a couple things up front. Not only do I also always thank you guys for coming to the show here, because it's time out of your day, your morning, your evening to spend with us here, talk about wrestling in the world that doesn't really matter, but matters to us. So we're going to get to all the things that happened this week in WWE, mainly focus on SmackDown, heavily focused on SmackDown, with a co-host here, Sean Harford, who will be joining me. And if you're wondering about Sean, or maybe you haven't heard him before, he used to join us on the show a number of months ago. Hasn't been on in quite a while, but he's on Patreon, and he's on the $10 tier. So if you get in the $10 tier or higher, which is actually the Monday Night Raw review, or the Monday Night Raw level or higher, you get to go on the show as well, and once a month. So Sean will be joining us in short order here. And consider going ad-free on Patreon and on Apple Podcasts. But before we get into any of that, I want to make a quick announcement about our website. Yeah, we have a website. Not a lot of people go to it because we're a podcast. So most of us go to Apple Podcasts or Spreaker, Spotify, wherever, to listen to the show and all our other podcasts. But I will be revamping. I'm actually currently in the process. I've hired somebody to completely rejigger the website. So if you see that it's kind of a disaster or doesn't exist or doesn't load over the next few weeks, that's because we're under construction. So what I'm envisioning is not only a completely new, fresh layout, and it's going to look much more updated and really customized to a podcast, not necessarily like a news website, because we're not a news website per se. We're going to be also having on there kind of a VIP lounge area. Go VIP. I think you hear that with another podcast out there. So I'm trying not to use that phrase, because I don't want to feel like I'm knocking off anybody else. So that said, I'm going to probably call it either Go VIP or VIP Lounge. So what's in the VIP Lounge? Basically, it's going to be exclusive content, meaning like quick videos, weekly videos, daily videos. I'm not sure yet. And that's what's going to be in there. And so I'll give you more information as we get closer, but our website's actually going to be a place that you may want to stop by. And it's not just, oh, that's right, he has that website thing. I'm going to try to make it a place that is actually useful, because I think the domain we have is nearly impossible to get. The WWEpodcast.com is, I really have no idea how WWE didn't take that before I did, but haha, too bad. I'm not giving it up. So that said, all right, let's jump into one more thing, and it's not announcements. It's something I missed on the mailbag show last Wednesday. And on that mailbag show, I missed a couple of emails, and I promised that these two emails would be read because I totally missed them, and it's not fair to these two individuals. So let's get through these emails quickly, and then we'll jump into my conversation with Sean. So here we go. All right, the first one we got that I missed, my bad. Dennis wrote to us last week and said that Bad Bunny, Shane, and Knoxville in the Rumble, but no Balor, Apollo, or any other person that the roster could actually be that are actually employed at the company. I know Shane's family owns the business, but he took wrestlers. They took a wrestler's place. A very poor event, in my opinion. Yeah, that's sorry, Dennis. I mean, I will never be of the belief that an established up-and-coming star should be removed for the sake of a celebrity interjection. With few exceptions. General rule is no, but WWE does it because they're 20 years too late to the Jackass party. For some reason, Jackass is still cool. And they wanted to do this. This is not the first time they've done this. They've done this many other times. As you said, Bad Bunny, all this stuff. All these essentially cameo appearances that WWE puts into their Royal Rumble. which really doesn't even make sense when you think about it. But like, how are people that aren't in the event, aren't even actual wrestlers, getting an opportunity at the largest position in the entire company's yearly spot? Meaning, you win this match, you get into the main event of WrestleMania. How are they even putting anybody in there that's not an actual active wrestler? I mean, like, when you think about the logistics of it, doesn't make sense. So I'm with you, Dennis. You said that you enjoyed Seth Reigns and Rollins. I did too. And did you notice during the Becky and Doudrop, I'm assuming that's what you meant, match, that the fans got distracted? It's because the WrestleMania sign caught fire twice. I thought the Women's Rumble match was decent. I actually picked Brock to win a few months ago, if you remember. Yeah, well, I don't remember, Dennis, so I'm going to rely on your word of mouth and your honesty. So, I believe you. Brock winning is not something I think some people wanted. I think others are okay with it. I'm okay with it. But yeah, the WrestleMania sign caught fire. That's the only reason. I mean, I know that now. So thank you, Dennis. So I apologize for missing your email, but I do see your new email for this week, which I'll wait until the mailbag this week. I won't read it now and spoil it. Okay. Let's see. I know I also missed, let's see here. Wes. Wesley, let's get to your email here. And this is the final one, guys, and we'll jump into the week in review. You mentioned that what a letdown of a premiere live event. So I think I've been saying it. Somebody corrected me, because I've been saying that it's not a premiere live event, but rather a premium live event. So I think it is premium live event. So I think I'm wrong. I think it's a premium live event, not premiere. So that's my bad. Okay, so you said that despite an awesome opening, it was a letdown of a premium live event. Seth and Roman killed it. From Seth's entrance to ring gear, the match itself would have preferred a clean finish, but I'm not mad how it ended. Although my question is, where does Seth go from here? I'm writing this on Monday morning, so that question may have been answered on Raw. So I think a lot of people felt that way in the moment. They were pissed off about the ending and then realized it's actually a finish that makes sense. It's amazing that this finish of a non-clean finish makes sense when you use it in the right context, and people aren't pissed about it after they think about it for a few minutes. But the problem is WWE overuses their non-finish ability, on a regular basis. So, Seth is clearly, I think, on a path, again, with Roman Reigns, a war path. Now, does that mean it's going to be Brock versus Roman versus Seth at WrestleMania? It could be. And you know what? I think they could play on the WrestleMania 31 cash-in by Seth Rollins. Remember that? It was technically a triple threat at the end. But this time, Seth doesn't get to cash in. So that's where I think he's ultimately headed. I ultimately think he's there. The Royal Rumble match itself, lazy, predictable, disappointing. I think if I'd gone into the match with the lowest of expectations, I'd still have come away disappointed. The surprise entrants were disappointing, and only one of them was actually a surprise. We knew Drew would return, we knew Brock would enter at number 30, and in all likelihood, win after how his match with Bobby Lashley ended. And WWE posted it on Twitter and Instagram earlier in the day, showing that Bad Bunny was at the event, so that wasn't a surprise. The only surprise was Shane McMahon. Yawn. I never want to see him wrestling again. No Forbidden Door entrant. No former huge superstar like The Rock returning. Yeah, Wes, if you did your research and I didn't, then you were very disappointed at this, especially if you wanted big surprise returns. And that's one of the big drawbacks of social media in so many ways. Social media has ruined so many lives in so many ways, but in just the pro wrestling context, I think that it has taken away whatever kayfabe was left. And it's taken away a lot of surprises that could potentially happen out of the equation. And you're seeing it here because people just can't help themselves and post crap and think that it's going to get they care more about likes and hitting that like button than they do about necessarily keeping completely secret what they want to keep secret. So a side note, and this is something that has been bothering me for years, it may or may not annoy others. Typically, any interference leads to a DQ finish, as long as the referee has not been laid out. Why are we expected to believe that? Once a new referee is needed, a new referee has not seen what's gone on while the original referee was incapacitated? Why can they run down, count to 3, no questions asked? Anyway, enough of the negativity. Hope everyone has a great week. Wes, thank you, Wes, and sorry for missing your email. And here's your, to answer your second email, Wes, the new email, which, by the way, you can still use this one, the one you emailed me, but the new official one for the mailbag is mailbag@wwepodcast.com. So here's the thing. You would imagine that if a referee knows they need to go out there, that they know they need to go out there and they already saw what happened. You know, say a referee goes down and the heel hits the babyface in the head with a chair, and the referee is down, they didn't see it, but then all of a sudden another referee comes out. Why can't they enforce the law of the land and disqualify that heel? Because if they were backstage knowing they had to come out, didn't they see that happen? But we're supposed to believe that, nope, everything's a clean slate. There's nothing actually happening until the ref gets in the ring. The ref is blind. Apparently they are blindfolded and earmuffed backstage, and their only job is to, during matches, to sit there in chairs and have blindfolds and earmuffs on, and only know they need to go out to the ring when they're tapped on the shoulder. That way they don't know what happened outside of their own world. I mean, it is kind of preposterous, Wes. I know. You're going to get me on a rant. Did you do that on purpose? All right, Wes. Thank you so much. Okay. So that wraps up the things I missed on the mailbag show on Wednesday, so my bad. That said, everybody, I believe that is it for me. I want to thank you for listening. Again, this is our most downloaded show of the week, is the Week in Review, and that's because of you guys. So please consider giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Both do seriously help us out. And keep an eye out for our new website, which, again, you can go ahead there and look now, but it probably looks like a piece of garbage. We're going to be, again, giving you more details, and the final product won't be probably for 2-3 weeks, more likely. Sometime in late February, early March, we will be finalizing our new website, and it'll be functional and much more user-friendly and much more organized. So anyway, thank you, everybody, for listening to us. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time, which will be the Monday Night Raw review. All right, everybody, welcome to your Week in Review, and we've got a co-host tonight. We've got Sean Hartford. You guys may remember him. It's been a few minutes, or as the kids say, it's been a hot minute since Sean has been back on the show. And as a patron of the show, he's able to come on once a month, and starting in the $10 tier and higher, that's what you get to do, guys. And that's what Sean's here for. And we're here to talk wrestling. We're here to talk the weeks leading up to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. We're officially on the road to WrestleMania, all that good stuff. So we'll hit on as much as we can in our bit of a brief chat here. But Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. It's great to be back, and it's great to return to the show, even though it's been quite a while. I'm always happy to be back.
Definitely, yeah. It probably has been, I don't know, many months. So this is great to hear you again, and I'm interested to hear what you think about what's been going on. And let's talk a little bit about SmackDown right now, because as we came out of SmackDown, there's so many things that we could talk about. Goldberg coming back to challenge Roman Reigns. There's really a lot. So take your pick, Sean. Where do you want to start with SmackDown?
We could start from the beginning and roll down to the end to see how it goes.
Sure. Okay. So in that case, then we had, let's see what had the Bloodline. Well, the Bloodline opened the show. That's what we're talking about here with Goldberg, and Paul Heyman came out and he basically gave the explanation that there was not a plot or a scheme, and that he was just realizing he'd made a mistake with Reigns being upset with him, and he had been fired, and he said that he deserved to get Superman punched. So what did you think about Paul Heyman explaining what happened and why he did what he did?
Well, particularly, it's sometimes it's to the world of entertainment, it's sometimes forgiving can be something, and it also depends, if you're at someone's side. You've been with he's been with Lesnar for many years, ever since he's been into the early times of his prime, and now that he's with Roman Reigns, it's he's seen a new light. He's seen a new different kind of Brock Lesnar in Roman Reigns, maybe a different outlook and a next big thing in Roman Reigns that he saw in Brock Lesnar in his early time.
Yeah, it did. It seemed like he genuinely regretted his decision, and that he felt that his chemistry was better with Roman Reigns, and that the true future of the company was with Roman Reigns, which is actually true. I mean, Brock Lesnar is not going to be here for too much longer, I don't believe. Roman Reigns obviously has many more years in front of him than Brock, but that said, we did have Roman Reigns kind of he was accepting of Paul Heyman's apology, and Paul Heyman basically was groveling to the tribal chief and said that he realized that Reigns didn't need to be protected from Lesnar, but rather it was the other way around. And so that at that point we had essentially Goldberg come out, and he said that he acknowledged Reigns, but only as his next victim, and then made an official challenge to Roman Reigns for a match at Elimination Chamber. So what do you think about Goldberg coming back to have the match that they should have had 2 years ago when the pandemic started?
To be honest, I didn't expect Goldberg to be appearing at SmackDown, which was like a little bit interesting, seeing that he hasn't lost a step, and like it's been a couple months since he had his last match. I think it was probably with the Fiend, and after that Fiend left. So it's pretty much going to be an interesting way to see it, but I'm not sure if he's going to probably win the championship. It's probably going to stick with Roman, like heading into like WrestleMania maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I really don't see any scenario in which Goldberg wins the championship here. The fans, I think, would completely explode if Goldberg's the one to take it off of Roman Reigns after 500 and some days. That it's Goldberg who's here, once every 6 months, and every time he comes in, he just is automatically awarded a championship opportunity. I don't know how people haven't started to boo Goldberg, honestly. Maybe it's the nostalgic entrance. I think the entrance may be the only thing people care about with Goldberg, because outside of that, he's not a WWE guy, never was a WWE guy, and he comes in and is just essentially it's like a birthright that he comes in and is just awarded an opportunity for the belts, and I really am not a fan of that. But they're giving us the match that they were going to give us 2 years ago. It's going to be a lot. This is not exactly going to be a very technical match. It's not going to be Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, all right? I mean, you know that. This is going to be probably 5 minutes or less, and probably going to be lots of hard hitting, kickouts of spears, probably a kick out of a jackhammer, probably the Usos interfering in some way to allow Goldberg to or allow Roman Reigns to come away with the belt. Do you see any scenario in which Goldberg wins the championship at Elimination Chamber?
The only way, this is going to be a tricky way to point it out. So this is like a scenario. So like if it does actually happen, so say like the Usos actually did come out into the ring and to try and distract the ref, or like Goldberg itself, and it didn't work out, and then the referee saw them, it would have to like try to like toss them out of the ring, and they would have to be barred from the ringside, and then they have to go to the back, and then with Roman probably maybe distracted, and Goldberg got a chance if he could hit the spear and hit the jackhammer to try to get for the 1, 2, 3. That could be a definite chance.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I don't think it's likely at all. I think that there's a small possibility, and over the next 2 weeks, WWE will try to do their best to convince us that Goldberg is a true threat. I mean, he was the one to beat Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship. He beat The Fiend for the Universal Championship. He has ended some streaks that have, Goldberg had no business ending, but this is a different level. This is a different stratosphere of a run that Roman Reigns is on, and I don't believe, and I don't think you do either, that Goldberg's going to, but your scenario is plausible. I just don't think it's likely, and this match is just to give us the match that we thought we were going to get 2 years ago, and we get to see spear versus spear. They've built up the possibility of title versus title too much over the last couple of months to believe that it's not going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship versus the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Do you think ultimately that's probably what they'll go with, is one-on-one, belt versus belt, and the winner walks away as a double champion?
That's pretty much a good possibility. It all depends on how Lesnar does via the Elimination Chamber against Lashley, Riddle, Rollins, and I forgot the rest of the names, but I don't keep track. But it could be a possibility as long as he stays in a good amount of time, and depends as well, like how what number he's going to come in for Elimination Chamber. If he's going to go in first, is he going to go in second, third, last? Mm-hmm. It all depends on the how long he can survive.
Yeah, it does. And I again, early prediction on my part, I think Brock will probably take it back because Vince wants the biggest main event possible, and that's going to be Brock versus Roman. They're both top champions. Who's the ultimate champion? I mean, I really believe that's what Vince looks at this as. I wouldn't do that. I would keep the belt off Brock. I don't care if Brock's going to face Roman. I just don't want the WWE Championship being tied up in that role. But we will see. Like you said, Elimination Chamber is a quick turnaround now, 2 weeks. And we're already through the Elimination Chamber. And then there's no pay-per-view between Chamber and Mania, which I really like. It's just a straight 6 weeks of building to WrestleMania. I think that's way better than having yet another pay-per-view of like Roadblock or, I don't know, whatever else odd pay-per-view is in between there. So, all right, well, let's move on. Talk about the next segment here that happened on SmackDown, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe it was Ricochet versus Ridge Holland. And then that turned into a tag team match. So Ricochet gets the victory over Ridge Holland, who's still wearing that face mask from a broken nose, and an inadvertent broken nose by Ricochet. So before we get to the tag match, did you enjoy the match between Ricochet and Ridge Holland?
I thought it was pretty interesting. There were some parts that were good, some parts that were not that great. It's like sometimes it's like one side, sometimes it's back and forth. It's just half the time the matches can be the same over and over just to improve the ratings, and sometimes it's not it can't be about the ratings. It's just about the showing of the moves for the superstars. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this program feels like it's gone on a little bit, maybe too long. I don't know. It just, much like Drew McIntyre and Corbin, which we'll get to down the line, it kind of feels like, all right, well, can we move on from this? And, I think past Elimination Chamber, everything's going to get reset. So if we can all hang on 2 more weeks, then we'll get into full WrestleMania mode, and these kind of stale programs should go by the wayside. But, yeah, I mean, look, Ricochet is always going to give you a show. He's like fireworks. He's going to give you great maneuvers, but not a lot of emotion with what he does. In other words, I don't feel any emotional ties to his character. I don't have any emotional investment in him. The only thing then, and right now, sadly, I think most people look at Ricochet and say, man, he's the guy with the cool moves, instead of looking at him and saying, hey, that's a guy I can relate to. That's a guy I can get behind and live through. Unfortunately for Ricochet, his entire character is one-dimensional of just being the guy that can do inhuman moves, and he can. But with Ridge Holland here, I was surprised he got the victory only because Ridge Holland seems to be the protege to Sheamus, and you would imagine that a protege to Sheamus should start getting some victories and piling them up, but he didn't. However, this then evolved into a tag team match that saw Holland and Sheamus then get the win back by defeating Ricochet and Cesaro. So, I mean, you talk about 50-50 booking here, but what did you think about the tag match that resulted from this?
It was pretty much like they finally got their deserved win. They got their payback for that. Ridge Holland finally got the win, with his partner Sheamus, and both of them. What's really interesting is it has a little bit of a nostalgic feel for Ireland's finest, for example Finlay, Hornswoggle, and such Ireland superstars. And it's actually interesting to see because he had the way with his attire, his entrance attire, he had the hat, he had the jacket, both of them had the shillelagh, which is kind of in this little bit of a remembrance for Finlay. But the match itself was kind of okay in my books, but it's kind of a shame to see that Ricochet didn't get the win.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I mean, it was he is kind of a callback to Finlay, man. I haven't talked about maybe Finlay ever on this show, but a guy that you could study, Fit Finlay, one of the toughest guys in the business, a legitimate Irishman. Yeah, it was certainly, yeah. I mean, but you're right. And Sheamus is kind of the old guard teaching a new guard teaching him the ropes. And I think Ridge Holland's in a good place right now. They seem to gel nicely. I think for Sheamus, it's one of the better things that's happened. It refreshes the Sheamus character that has been essentially kind of a little stale for quite some time. And I think that this is helping Sheamus as it is much helping Ridge, even if this program is not really that exciting with Ricochet. It's Ricochet and Cesaro is not exactly exciting, but it's a fine. You're going to get good wrestling. That's what you're going to get here. So, all right, let's see. Oh, Eric versus Jimmy Uso. Now this match didn't last long. This match was over fairly quickly. I don't think that they wanted to give Eric too much TV time for people to tune in and go, who's this guy? I don't know who he is. I'm changing the channel. It's really unfortunate because as much as they talk about building new stars, they didn't give Eric a whole lot of offense, nor did they give him a whole lot of airtime here. But this was not great. I don't think this was great, not only because the match was super short, but we had Jimmy Uso defeat Eric, and yet we're supposed to believe that the Viking Raiders are a threat to the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So I don't know. This was not a highlight of SmackDown for me. Maybe you feel differently.
No, I kind of agree with you, for a couple reasons. One of the things is, he didn't give him much TV time because they wanted to, go on with the show and such. Because, yes, I know there's not, they have a certain amount of time for certain matches, and it's understandable, but half the time, you want to have, a good, lengthy match. There's been good, lengthy matches that happen, and I wasn't really wanting to see the Usos win, which I kind of not a big fan of them. I am a big fan of the Viking Raiders, and hopefully they could probably get the tag titles. Maybe it depends if there's no interference, but unfortunately I think it's going to be the Usos that's probably going to still hold on to the tag titles coming past the Elimination Chamber, maybe.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that I wish they had presented to us a little bit more of a threat or maybe a story that we could dive into and go, yeah, maybe I think it might be the Viking Raiders' time. There's nothing that would tell you that this is the time for the Viking Raiders to dethrone the Usos, who are a part of the bloodline, the most important group in WWE. There is really nothing, unfortunately, if you're a Viking Raiders fan or you just want to see Jimmy and Jay lose the belts, that would tell you that the Viking Raiders are going to become champions at Elimination Chamber. I don't see it. So do you see any possibility of that? Are you kind of on my?
It's kind of 50-50 around my book. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, all right, cool. Yeah, so you're significantly you're giving them a much bigger chance than I am, and that's cool. I think that I hope that there's more of a threat. I hope that I wish there was, because then I don't like to look at this match and go, no chance, but let's enjoy the match. So all right.
Yeah, they did have a bit of a threat when they had the bit of a storyline with the Street Profits in the years ago.
Yes, they did, and right now the one thing too that's hurting the Viking Raiders is that they not only now they're losing singles matches, but they also don't get any mic time. The Viking Raiders, they don't really, you don't hear from them, and if you do, it's from those really, really bad scripted pre-match taped. They play it while they're walking to the ring promos, and those are never good. Almost ever are those match or those promos good. I don't think I've ever heard a promo that's pre-taped that's really well done that grabbed me that was played while somebody was walking to the ring. To me, it's just them checking a box saying, "See, we're giving them mic time." No, that's not real mic time, right? That you have a teleprompter essentially in front of that person, what it feels like. And I don't want to be listening to his promo or her promo also while trying to watch that person walk to the ring. It's very it's to me it kind of divides your attention in a way that it shouldn't. But I don't know. So any final thoughts on this before we move on to a women's segment here?
No.
Okay. Aaliyah versus Natalya. So this has been a program that has been going on much longer than I thought, and I'm okay with it. I think it gives Natalya something to do other than wear cat ears and talk about Instagram or whatever she does. And Aaliyah, who has broken the world record for the fastest time ever, she wore an Aaliyah what was it, a 317 shirt or something?
Aaliyah 317, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously a play on Stone Cold, which it's fine. I mean, like, good for her. She's trying to make a name for herself, and she's putting on okay matches. She's not embarrassing herself. She's getting victory after victory, even if it's in different ways. And this week it was via a count out from versus Natalya. I can say the word here. So she got a count out victory, and now next week they have another match, I believe. I think that was put into place by Sonya Deville. So yeah, I mean, what do you make? Are they just trying to give Aaliyah a bit of a winning streak to get her into the minds of fans as a legitimate star? Or what is the point of this? Is it just an introduction to Aaliyah? What do you see this as, and are you liking it?
Yeah. So I'll get to that in a minute. So I'm thinking like maybe they want to like give her like a bit of a push, and that's a good thing because like she's still like relatively new to the SmackDown brand, and not to mention she had a decent showing in the Royal Rumble. Seeing that the world record happened was pretty amazing, and I know every week it's going to be happening. Aaliyah versus Natalya, Aaliyah versus Natalya, Aaliyah versus Natalya. It's going to be like how many times are we going to keep on seeing this match? I mean, I know it's going to get like kind of boring like time and time and again, but sometimes like it will be good, sometimes it will be bad. All in all.
No, that's the way it goes, and this they face each other like 3-4 times now, so it's not super old. I think that while fans like new all the time isn't feasible. So this is fine to me. It gives Aaliyah to somebody to work with, and Natalya is the gatekeeper of the women's division. I look at Natalya as kind of like the Dolph Ziggler of the men's division, where they're both really good workers, they're veterans, but they're never going to be centerpieces of their division anymore. They're gatekeepers of their respective divisions, where they know they can work with anybody. They know they're going to put a good match on with anybody, and anybody that they're in the ring with, they're going to automatically give credibility to, especially for new people coming up. So to me, Natalya and Aaliyah is fine. I think Natalya next week, they're going to have a dungeon match, meaning it can be only by pinfall or submission that the match ends. So some way, somehow, I think Aaliyah is going to continue this streak, and maybe it'll get a little fun where, just she gets victories that are just completely by luck. Some of them I think will be of her own accord, but I don't know. I don't know where this ends. I would imagine an elimination chamber between these two. But do you think, and as well as I do, that Aaliyah is probably going to continue this winning streak?
Definitely, I think so. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out, like how long they're going to keep the storyline going. Sometimes it could be weeks, months, or a whole year. I think it's been more than years, maybe. So it could be like a one-sided being in her favor.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say too is, I would like, if you're going to continue this with Aaliyah and give her wins, how about we kind of cut off the fluky wins? Eventually she's going to have to get credible victories that aren't just lady luck on her side with countouts, or maybe Natalya gets herself disqualified, or somebody interferes on Aaliyah's behalf. Eventually, you can't make Aaliyah just this kind of lovable character that isn't credible and feels like a threat to anybody because she wins in fluky ways. Eventually, they're going to have to make her win of her own accord, not just she's completely lucking out on her victories. So I will say that too. But all right, let's get a little more serious topic here. Drew McIntyre's Warpath is how this segment was labeled, and I was hoping, I will say, I was really hoping when they said that this is Drew McIntyre's Warpath, we're going to hear from him on what's next. I'm like, okay, cool. They're going to pivot away from Corbin and Madcap Moss. This is finally done. We're going to have Drew McIntyre into an actual program. Maybe call Roman out by name. I know he's in a program with Brock, and Roman's a bit of a mess too, but at least set his sights on something else. And he still said that he's going to make Corbin's life a living hell for basically forever. And I'm thinking to myself, no, like fans are done with this. You have beaten them cleanly. You eliminated them both from the Rumble. There's nothing left to prove. And Drew seems to be the one continuing this. And I don't think fans have any interest in Corbin versus McIntyre or Madcap Moss versus McIntyre. That's me. It's good to see McIntyre getting full support from the crowd again, and that he's on TV in a prominent position. What do you make of Drew McIntyre continuing this program with Madcap Moss and Baron Corbin?
Particularly, well, I'll say that it was definitely good to see him return. And particularly, I think, like, too much, like, TV time for Corbin, so it's his promos are, like, the jokes, they're, like, so bad. And I'm thinking, like, why does he do the jokes? Where does he come up with them?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he comes up with them either. I mean, they're purposefully bad. They're supposed to be bad. They're supposed to be heat grabbingly bad. Like, we're supposed to be annoyed by them. But they're at the, I don't know. Like, I think Madcap Moss, I mean, remember when he was Riddick Moss, when he was actually a character that you had some, had some depth to it other than this character. But hey, I think that right now, beyond the jokes that we have, this should end. We have a program now that has an ending, and that is Drew versus Corbin at Elimination Chamber, assumingly. So do you see after Elimination Chamber Drew still messing with Corbin and Madcap Moss, or do you see Drew finally after Elimination Chamber turning away and setting his sights on someone else?
Well, I could definitely put it in two different perspectives. So, like, perspective number one, he would definitely want revenge on them both for, like, trying to take him out of action from day one. And I know for sure he still hasn't forgotten about that. And perspective number two, maybe you could keep it going, or maybe they'll end it there. It all depends on who wins.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario, though, in which Drew loses this at Elimination Chamber. And again, I don't know what the match is yet. We'll find out. It'll be something along the lines of Drew versus Corbin and Madcap Moss. I don't know. But there's just, to me, on the road to WrestleMania, with one of your biggest stars, he was the final two facing Brock Lesnar in the Rumble. He came back early from an injury. He talked about how his doctors told him not to come back. He doubted his ability to compete. And basically Drew told him, to F off, and I'm going to do this. And he did. And so I think that I don't hate this program with Drew and Corbin, or rather Madcap Moss and Corbin. I think the problem I have with it is it's February. It's February now. Like, Drew, I feel like should be in a solidified main event program of some sort, even if it's not for a championship, at least with a equal main event caliber talent. I mean, I don't know. I just it's so deep now into the season with only less than 2 months till WrestleMania. I don't know. I guess I expected McIntyre to be in a bigger position than he is now, but maybe the tune will change after Elimination Chamber in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. It will probably depend on who gets the upper hand and like who has the better chance past Elimination Chamber, maybe leading up to WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's very possible. It is. All right. Shinsuke versus Jinder Mahal was up next. So I guess I won't have any analysis on this. I'll turn it to you first. What did you think about this?
I thought seeing Shinsuke is he's really a fan favorite. Same for Rick Booth, and obviously Pat McAfee going on top of the announce table, just doing air guitar. It's just so funny. And I thought it was pretty. Seeing him compete was pretty good. I like both of them. They have a good, definitely tag team future.
Yeah, they do seem to be a legitimate tag team, and I'm fine with it. We don't know where Veer Mahan is. He's going to Raw. I don't think he debuted yet. I mean, that's a running joke. I don't believe Veer Mahan debuted yet, but now it looks like Shanky is the 7-foot bodyguard for Jinder Mahal, for lack of a better term. And, Nakamura did beat Mahal here. So, that kind of tells you where they view Jinder Mahal. But at the same time, they're trying to elevate the Intercontinental Championship, which has been forgotten for like 8 months. I mean, it's really, I'm sorry, it's sad that they have completely neglected the Intercontinental Championship. There's no excuse for it. They can't tell you, oh, we didn't have anything for storyline. It's really a shame what they've done with the IC title, especially given it's around a top talent like Nakamura. So Sami Zayn is going to be getting that Intercontinental Championship match, though. It's going to happen in 2 weeks, which is the night before the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So that Intercontinental Championship match is happening. Do you think Sami in 2 weeks is going to take the IC belt, or do you think it's going to spill into Elimination Chamber? And what are your thoughts?
So this is a good way I could see it in a different way. So like side number one, I mean, he's been saying that, like, I'm the rightful Intercontinental Champion. I'm the one that deserves to be champion. I'm the rightful Intercontinental Champion, nonstop, over and over and over. I mean, how many times are we going to hear you say that? Like, hello, we get that. It's like nonstop. Like, he wants a title. He thinks it's life. He thinks it's like his wants more than a need. And we kind of seen that. Not like every time he comes out, it's like every time he even had the merchandise saying, I'm the rightful Intercontinental Champion. Like, really? I mean, seriously, we know you want the title, but you got to earn your way up. It's simple as that. And with Shinsuke as the champion, I kind of like his reign as champion. I think it's still going to, I mean, there's going to be a time where his reign will end, and that's understandable, but maybe it'll pick up again, like later on in the future.
I really hope that Sami does capture the belt, and not because I don't like Nakamura. I just don't like what WWE has done with Nakamura as champion. I think they could do more with Sami, or at least I believe they would, because they do like Sami Zayn. They put him in several segments on the show. Sami's a good talker. He can wrestle for sure, and Nakamura versus Shinsuke, or rather, Nakamura versus Sami Zayn is going to be a great match. I mean, these two go back all the way to NXT, putting on some amazing matches in NXT. So I have no doubt that the quality of this match is going to be A+, so that's never a concern. Maybe the only concern is Rick Boogs fixing his electric guitar. That was obviously a complete. I mean, it was a mistake. I mean, it wasn't planned. He was trying to, he was trying, and it clearly wasn't hooked up to the mic right or something. And he immediately went to just, his voice part of it. And so he improvised, and Pat McAfee, as you said, was on the desk dancing. Pat McAfee does some weird stuff. I gotta say, I don't dislike Pat McAfee, but I gotta say the guy is. For me, he might be too high energy. He flips his pencil 8 times a show. I think he spends more time flipping his pencil, making sure he can do it correctly, than he does at times, doing things he should be doing. But I don't know. What do you think? Just generally, a little bit off topic. What do you think about Pat McAfee and his skills on the mic?
It's pretty good. I know I've seen a little bit of his time in the ring he had with I think it was Pete Dunne, if I said it correctly, Dunne or Dunn, I don't know if I said it right, but I never seen him much in the ring, but on the mic he's pretty good.
Yeah, no, and I think he's breathed life into not just the commentary team, but also the SmackDown broadcast. I mean, he is so high energy that the broadcast never feels boring. Even if you're watching a segment that you're not too into, he sometimes makes you feel like you should be watching. So I'll give him that. Even at times if he just goes off the rails and says silly things or flips his pencil at 40 times, like whatever. He has his quirks that are annoying, but at the same time he brings an intangible quality to the table. And Michael Cole even said that himself that Pat McAfee has rejuvenated his career and has given new life to his career. So that's a hell of a compliment. All right. Well, the next match, which is the match before the main segment here, New Day versus Los Lotharios. So this match, I have maybe I missed something here. Now, the match itself I thought was fine. I mean, really good. I had no problem. Los Lotharios they're really starting to gel as a tag team. They feel like a legit tag team. And New Day did beat them. But my question is, why is Big E on SmackDown right now? Like, We were told that he's only on SmackDown the last several weeks because it's Royal Rumble season. And to me, that's a weak excuse. I mean, it's a draft. Just because it's Rumble season, there's nothing, we were told, that says, if it's Rumble season, anybody can go anywhere. And now all of a sudden, well, what is it? What's the excuse now? Is it Elimination Chamber season? And so, I know most people don't care about this stuff, but there's really just, to me, I'm a big stickler on rules when it comes to the draft. And Big E's here. I know Kofi needs a tag partner, but this is not only, to me, a complete violation of the draft, and it's frustrating for the fans and insulting to fans. But more importantly, not just my own personal feelings being hurt, which they're really not, but Big E, for his singles career. This is setting his singles career back by months and months and months. We were told that Big E was on his singles run, and every chance we get, we hear about Big E, any chance they get, they reunite Big E with Xavier Woods and Kofi. Every chance they get, they team them up together. Now he's inexplicably on SmackDown teaming with Kofi again, as if he never left the New Day. So, what do you think about, I know there's a multi-layer question here. I'll start with, do you care even that Big E's on SmackDown, or does that not bother you?
It's no surprise that he's on SmackDown. I mean, yes, Kobe needed a tag team because apparently Xavier Woods is currently injured and out on the sidelines. So I'm totally fine that he's on SmackDown, trying to fill in the role for Xavier Woods until he's fully back healthy and back on the show, maybe.
Okay, so now that's fine. Sometimes I wish I didn't care either. Sometimes I wish I just enjoyed the product and I moved on. Maybe because I do this podcast that I have to look at it with a more critical eye. But yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's my own detriment. But at the same time, I feel insulted that they're not even just telling us give us something. They're not doing anything. Oh, there's a trade made. Okay, fine. Trades are done all the time in all the professional sports. But the other thing is, what about Big E's career? I mean, we were told that, Big E, everybody was looking forward to Big E as a single star on a singles run, and he became WWE champion. And now he's back to as if he never left the New Day at all, doing the clapping and the chanting and the hip swiveling. I don't know. Do you feel like Big E is regressing by going back into the New Day team on a regular basis now, or do you think he'll be just fine?
Maybe he could go back with the team, or maybe part of Xavier Woods' hand to the king kind of thing. The opportunity's knocking for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Naomi and Sonya Deville. So you wanted to talk about that quickly, so go ahead.
Yeah, all right. So Naomi came into the office for Sonya Deville, and I understand the rivalry is just driving me nuts. I mean, when I have the jacket, it means I'm authority. You can't even touch me. I mean, please, can you stop with that nonsense for once? Please, just for once. That's all I wanted to happen there. Adam Pearce is let's come up with the idea and give her a title shot with Charlotte Flair next week on SmackDown. And Naomi says, to Sonya Deville, I still ain't done with you yet, which is kind of interesting. I understand that she ain't done with her yet, and finally Naomi gets 1 week when she doesn't have to be at Sonya Deville's throat, and then she can focus on the women's champion Charlotte Flair.
I hope they go back to Naomi and Sonya Deville. The thing is, though, that I think they took way too long to get to the match. They took 5 months, maybe longer, to actually get to that match. And like you said, the whole jacket thing is just ridiculous. I mean, there's nothing, where in the contract does it say that if I'm wearing a specific item of clothing, that it changes the position that I'm in? If I go to work and I wear a tie, and then I take off my tie, and I'm I'm not working here right now. I'm actually a customer. I'm not an employee because I'm wearing a different piece of clothing. There's no practical logic to that. There's nothing. It is the most ridiculous thing ever. And then the one time Naomi was smart enough to get it off her by turning up the thermostat a few weeks ago, she doesn't take advantage and just gets back in her face. I'm like, you should clock her. What are you doing? You just get back in her face? You don't need to have her take her jacket off to do that. So there's been some really frustrating moments for me during this. And apparently Naomi believes that getting rear view and then eliminating her from the Rumble is enough to equate to all the torture she's put her through for 5 months. But I think, like you said, this matchup is not over. It will probably culminate at Elimination Chamber in some way. And I do want to see Naomi just beat the holy hell out of her. I mean, there's just no other way about it. So they've done a good job in that respect, where Sonya has positioned herself as a heel. They've done a nice job of positioning her as a heel. I just don't know how upper management hasn't gotten involved. I mean, this is many months of abuse of power. How has Vince not gotten involved? Is he too busy concealing his $100 million golden egg from Austin Theory? Is he too busy mumbling in his office to himself? Is he too busy? I mean, look, what's happening there? Where's the board of directors? Why hasn't Naomi gone above her head? They're middle management. So, I don't know.
I mean, Vince McMahon is too busy, like, saying, like, Austin Theory is his favorite or something like that. I think Vince is just, like, too, like, bit of a pain in the neck. I mean, it's just, like, not a help to the brand itself, and it's, like, hurting its reputation as well.
Yeah, it is, no doubt. And so I did notice that my recorder, as the line went out, actually cut off 2 segments that we talked about. So rather than have me rehash everything, people want to hear from you rather than me. So just recap 2 things. The topic about Big E and his participation on SmackDown and why that he's on SmackDown and if that bothers you, and then the Ronda Rousey segment. So it's just the last 2 segments of the show. If you want to kind of summarize your thoughts on that, just because I want to make sure you get a fair shake here. My recorder went haywire as everything just went out. So go ahead.
Yeah, it happened. So, first, no big deal about the recording. So basically, for Ronda Rousey, I think it's like a good step in her return. She has definitely had big push leading up to WrestleMania. And as for like Big E, like him on SmackDown, it's like I find it as like okay, like for now. Like it all depending on how they see him, like where they see him in storylines, like how they want to push him, where they want to put him next, and hopefully soon that Xavier Woods will be returning back to the brand SmackDown.
Cool. All right. And what about your thoughts on Ronda Rousey coming out? She challenged Charlotte Flair rather than choosing Becky Lynch, saying she didn't come through an ice storm to talk. And then she said that she'll see her at WrestleMania. Sonya Deville gets involved. She ends up in an arm bar. Are you excited about the potential of just one-on-one here, or would you have rather had Ronda choose Becky?
Either way, I think it's going to be a hell of a match to seeing Ronda Rousey back as champion, and then seeing Sonya Deville in the armbar makes me think of how she did it to Stephanie McMahon in New Orleans at WrestleMania when she was teaming with Kurt Angle, and she even did it during the Levi's Stadium, and that's definitely Sonya definitely got her comeuppance for that.
Yeah, Sonya, like I said, Sonya Deville is just she's done a really good job. I really do wonder when they're going to put her back in a full-time position. I mean, the women's division always needs help. They're thin as always. I mean, I was surprised they didn't, do something more with her several months ago. I mean, when she was getting involved with Naomi, I said, oh, this is her transition back to a full-time performer, and they still haven't done that. So I don't know why. And maybe she's not pushing for it. I don't know. But why Sonya Deville is just in this role and how she got it in the first place. I mean, no one ever explained that either. Why she's a WWE official. She went from performer to official with no explanation. She just is. And, I think she's doing a good job of being a heel. But I would like to see Sonya eventually transition back to an actual performer because she can cut some really good promos. I mean, we saw it with the Mandy Rose Otis storyline a couple of years ago before WrestleMania. That was the best work Sonya Deville ever did. And since that time, it's been kind of like just off a cliff. So
it has, definitely.
All right, cool. Well, this is a lot of fun. Well, first, is there anything else that I missed on SmackDown or that you wanted to touch on? Oh, and the one segment that got cut out was wrap up your Lita and your Lita challenging Becky Lynch thoughts, and if you believe there's an opportunity for Lita to actually capture the belt going into WrestleMania.
So basically, I'll try to do it one more time if I remember what I said. So it's kind of interesting how Lita is going to try to challenge the champion, but one thing I understand is like maybe it's not the right time for you to like challenge for a championship. Maybe try to get a tune-up match. It depends, because she hasn't had a match in like years, and last time was the Royal Rumble in like recently Royal Rumble, and then 2018 Royal Rumble. So it's gonna be hard to tell if she still has what it takes to actually dominate a match in perspective.
Yeah, I'm very interested on the quality of the match of that. I mean, Lita can still go, but she can't go at the pace that she was 15 years ago. There's no doubt about that. I mean, she's aged. She's in her 40s now, but she's still decent on the mic. She's got some good star power. The crowd is really behind her, and I think her and Becky I think they'll have a good match. I don't think it'll be 5-star. It's just we're going to look at this and go, that was a good match. Given how long Lita's been out of the ring, I think that was fine. And then we'll move on to Becky Lynch's true opponent, which I think will be Bianca Belair, at least Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. And then probably Becky will lose it there, but we're getting a few steps ahead. So, cool. Well, Sean, thank you for joining us tonight. Is there any social media you'd like to put out there for people to follow you if they're interested?
Definitely check out my Twitter. I'm there pretty much. Most of it is at Harper Sean. Like, be sure to check me out. My Twitter, give me a follow, give your opinions. I'm more than welcome to answer any questions they have pertaining to any, like, as a podcast that you want to know about wrestling.
Very good. Well, so guys, hit him up for wrestling podcasts, because there's only one out there, right? I mean, there's no other wrestling podcast. I'm it. I mean, there's no other wrestling podcast that exists. That's right. Yeah. So, Sean, thank you for coming on tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to reconnect, and we'll be doing this again very soon.
Definitely hope to hopefully do it again, maybe next month, hopefully, as long as my schedule isn't crazy.
No, I hear you. Mine too. And we'll be right in the thick of WrestleMania. We'll be a mere month away until WrestleMania by that time. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, we definitely got to do a WrestleMania review. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be almost every day. I mean, so I'll be doing multiple reviews. So we'll stick you in one. So, Sean, thanks so much, man, and you have a good night.
You too. God bless.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.